Legendary Joe Meek, who made Telstar and so many other marvellous tunes. I tell you, man, that used to be the slow dance at the end of the night at the dancing, the JM Ballroom in Dundee. My daughter Lucy's sitting here. I used to do the slow dance with her mother as a 15-year-old to that very song. Oh, it takes me back, I'll tell you. That could be a hit today. Get the right boy band on that.
No,
where are the Crying Shame now? It's a crying shame we never heard of them again. They were a one-hit wonder. 08717 22 3344. Lucy's blushing, I don't know. I think she didn't like it. Those eyebrows go up, I know the answer. Here's Sharif in Ladbroke Grove. Go ahead, Sharif.
Hello, George.
Hi.
I've got a couple of things I want to say. I don't know if I've got time to say them all. One of them is this Lord Parfit chap, whatever. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Porritt,
sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. But I've been married 15 years. I'm 35 and I have 4 children.
Very good. Well done, sir.
And I just find the idea that somehow I'm irresponsible for having those 4 children.
Well, you've got twice as many as Porritt says you should have.
Well,
you should be paying a double tax.
Exactly. So I find this disgusting. I mean, first of all, right, I just think, at some point he's going to be in a situation where his pension needs to be paid by my children.
Yeah.
Or he needs to have his backside wiped by my children if he's in some home, for a start. Sorry to be grotesque. Also, I just think as well, if he's, if I was the Prince of Wales and I was actually, regularly talking about being a human tampon, maybe I would only have 2 kids. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not, and I don't understand what it is about, like the upper classes and the upper echelons of classes. They look down. They seem to think having more than 1 or 2 children as being this class thing, as being.
Well, isn't it, Sharif, isn't it the case that they themselves are content to have large families, but want the rest of us only to have 2? Because although Charles only had 2, of course his parents had, 4? And their parents had far more than 4. So
this is it, you see. This is it, exactly this, George, you see. This is it. It's basically a class system. It's basic. If you're a socialist and you believe in socialism, but what they're basically saying is the poor shouldn't have children.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting, and it's just one of those things. But can I make a quick statement? I know that this is going on to the later long conversation about the Carol Thatcher thing. I don't understand or believe there's anyone on this planet that does not understand that the term gollywog is a highly offensive term, because it is. It basically, first of all, it's one of those terms that, whether you read in the Blighton or not, first of all, in the terms of the South of America, was seen as some kind of, almost like affectionate term towards saying gollywogs to these kind of, really fluffy people that almost like they're one of our slaves.
Grinning pickaninnies, as Boris Johnson, the London mayor, once described them.
Exactly, George, who also defended Carol Thatcher, I would say, about that. But also, if you read in Blighton, they're the group of people who live in the forest, who steal all of your property and do harmful things to your children. Now, the fact is, she must know, and she does know. It's not, I don't believe that you can ever say a comment like that in jest. And not only this, you've got to understand how it lands as well. Do we have an equivalent of gollywog for black people to say to white people? No. And that's the thing. That is the real way of analysing something. Unless there's an equivalent of this, it's just one of those things that we all say. Then why isn't there an equivalent of gollywog or wog or any of these terms towards? It's basically a white man's term towards oppressing people. It's a highly loaded term.
And it appears that our ruling class, the upper class, are carrying these kind of words around with them so heavily on their minds that it takes but a small spark to have these words trip out, even in public, even in the presence of, in the case of Carlsbad, people of mixed race. Thank you, Sharif in Ladbroke Grove, as always. Great to hear from you. And now, on the Surveillance Society, Lord Goodlad, the chairman of the House of Lords Constitution Committee, said the huge rise in surveillance and data collection by the state and other organisations risked undermining the traditions of privacy and individual freedom which were vital for democracy. He said if the public are to trust that information about them is not being improperly used, there should be much more openness about what data is collected, by whom, and how it is used. there can be no justification for this gradual but incessant creep towards every detail about us being recorded and pored over by the state. And the staggering fact is that the British are the most highly surveyed society in the world. I've really no idea why that would be. But Camera Watch, which looks at these things, and Paul Mackey, our next guest, they will. Go ahead, Paul. Very nice to hear from you.
Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm very well, sir, and I've been admiring your work over the last day or so in talking about this. Tell me, why, first of all, are we the most highly surveyed society on the earth? 1/5 of the world's CCTV cameras are in the United Kingdom. 1/5.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult to explain there because, unfortunately, we're at the situation that it is expanding rapidly, and any buildings, new buildings nowadays, seems to have the basics of a roof, windows, doors, floor, and CCTV. And one of the areas there that Camera Watch deals with Data Protection Act compliance, which is basically how to do it properly. In other words, CCTV systems are there to protect people, and are they actually doing it? And that's really the question that we have to keep asking people.
Well, that's one of the questions, Paul, but just before we leave this point, I mean, there are new buildings going up in every country in the world, but we've still got 20% of all the CCTV cameras in the world with a population of 60 million, whilst the world's population is 6 billion.
There are obviously some very good salesmen out there, to be honest. I mean, we're actually in the situation that people don't think about whether they need CCTV or not. They just automatically take it. And that's one of the issues there. Certainly, having paid for a CCTV system, our issue really is it actually going to do what it's supposed to do?
Well, tell me about that, Paul, because how many times are we told that the CCTV actually wasn't working, or the film's been lost, or whatever?
Yeah,